Hi, I'm Tammy Greenberg, Senior Vice President of Business Development at RAB, and welcome to Radio on Main Street, the podcast all about radio. Our latest podcast series comes to you from the 2023 A&A Masters of Marketing Conference, where the marketing and ad community come together with a laser focus on growth. The conference showcased insights, strategies, and campaigns that leading brands have implemented to drive growth by meeting and exceeding their consumers' needs. Wow, the Stanley Black Decker presentation that was focused on the Craftsman brand truly knocked it out of the park. Following her presentation, I was delighted for the opportunity to chat with Tabata Gomez, the former Chief Marketing Officer for Stanley Black Decker, alongside the brand's agency partner, Jessica Henrichs, President of Collie McVoy. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming back and coming by. So the theme of this conference is a force for growth, a force for good. And you guys really, truly delivered on that, especially the force for growth perspective. You all acquired the Craftsman brand in, was it 2017,
yes,
2018?
2017.
So prior to the pandemic. And you worked towards... can you just tell the story, actually, because our listening audience didn't have the opportunity to be inside the room like I was. Can you tell the story about that acquisition and what you needed to do?
Of course. So Stanley Black Decker acquired the Craftsman brand in 2017 from Sears. We paid $900 million for that brand. And we knew it was a household name with lots of heritage, and we knew we were buying something that had a lot of growth potential. The Craftsman brand was a brand that was mostly only sold at Sears, so we knew there was an untapped audience out there who wanted to access the brand but couldn't because they didn't shop at Sears or they didn't want to shop at Sears. So we knew there was an opportunity for growth if we were able to get that brand out and place it in really good distribution partners that we have, like a Lowe's and Ace and Amazon, to get them to buy that brand. We also knew that Craftsman was struggling a bit when it came to quality and innovation because of the situation that had been going on at Sears. So we knew there was a big opportunity there. So when we made the deal, we also said, hey, we're going to build our own product portfolio. So we decided to design our own product line. There were some challenges there because we pretty much bought a sticker and that had a ton of equity, and we needed to launch an entire product line, but then we also needed to revitalize the brand and to find a way to reconnect with those lovers we had that had been loyal users of the brand, and then try to get to that untapped audience that we had out there, which were the folks that couldn't access the brand, and also the folks that didn't want the brand, and we needed to make them want the brand.
Right, and repositioning it, which is where you come in to the equation.
Well, definitely. So what my role is to work across the agency that supports the Craftsman brand. But I would say even before we got involved, it was really inspiring to see the work that had happened prior to our partnership, where, oftentimes it's really tempting to reinvent, a brand. And I think there was just a lot of thought and effort put into understanding the history and the heritage of the Craftsman brand that Tabata led with her team to tap into these core insights to really help energize this brand even prior to this most recent campaign launch, to really connect with the core audience, the Craftsman lovers, and expand. But yes, more recently, we've taken it up another notch where we've helped to really re-energize the brand, to bring in completely new users, younger, more diverse users who just haven't purchased Craftsman before, haven't necessarily been exposed to the brand in the same way. And there's a lot of risk there because when you're dealing with a legacy brand that everyone knows, and there's a really specific perception around that brand that has a lot of good in it, you want to make sure that you can disrupt in the right ways without alienating those core users.
Absolutely. So when did that campaign launch?
The most recent campaign launched in August, I want to say.
Earlier.
So
it was like end of Q1 of this year.
So post-pandemic.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
The most
I was
recent-
trying to get to the timeline.
Yes, yes.
So you acquired it. Was
Yeah.
there a step in between that?
Yeah, so we acquired the brand in 2017, and then that's when we worked really hard to understand, okay, what's going to be the future state of the brand, and we did a ton of work to understand the heritage that the brand had. We also did a ton of work to understand the user base and understand, okay, what are their purchase barriers, what's stopping them from buying the brand, and that's where we found out that they thought quality wasn't there anymore, and that's where we thought they all wanted to buy the brand, but they didn't want to buy it at Sears. So we got a lot of some great insights. I think the data also showed us that, you know, the people that love Craftsman have a very special connection to the brand because they are not your typical DIYer. They are people that like to work on their projects, that really admire their accomplishments. They are experienced, they're skilled, you know, they just love what they do, and there is a very special connection to the tool and a very unique sense of ownership. So that led us to build this brand foundation around the concept of Craftsman We Build Pride. So that's when the first wave started, and that's what we did for the relaunch, let's say in 2018, right after we had acquired the brand. And then from there we went to continue to launch more products, and we continue to evolving that We Build Proud foundation, and until we got to a point where we needed to modernize it a little bit more, because we had been running with it and it was very well liked, but that's when we got to the point that Jess was talking about how do you, okay, we needed to grow the brand more, so how do you connect the users that are so loyal to the brand to new audiences that you want to bring in that might need a different type of communication. And that's where we were all very nervous, because we're like, if we stayed the course, we would never going to attract the new audiences. But if we change something, we could also risk alienating our current users. So that's where we did a lot of work, a lot of testing, and that's what led us to the existing campaign, which honestly, we didn't even know it was going to score that well. And we can talk about that more in a second. But that's when the new campaign came in, and we started working on that last year. And we've moved really fast because Collie McVoy moves really fast. So we worked on it, and we launched it at the beginning of, let's say in March, April this year.
Which is fantastic. So tell me a little bit about the creative process and where the insights came from.
Well, this is a brand that knows itself well. And so I have to say the Craftsman team did an incredible job just putting together a really tight brief, you know, and so we've seen a lot of talks here, and we even heard earlier today, you know, the client sort of gets what it deserves, you know, gets the work it deserves. And oftentimes that's said in a negative way, but it can also be a really positive thing.
Absolutely.
That when the client understands who they are, does the hard work of uncovering those insights, and briefs you in a way that's such an exciting creative challenge, do something unexpected, scare us, push the boundaries, because we need to see a range of things that might feel a little safe, and things that might just really push our boundaries. And let's let the data tell us, because, you know, we all bring our own bias, you know, when it comes to what we prefer, especially around creative, right? We're all chief marketing officers and creative leaders when it comes to evaluating the work. And so it was really exciting to be able to push the boundaries, to have this range, and then to hear from this exciting data company, you know, how we performed across the board.
Yeah, and I found it. How many campaign ideas, campaign concepts did you create and then go forward to test?
Well, it depends on who you ask. I think, Tabata, you saw probably 8 in the beginning that we narrowed down to 4. Plus the control.
Right.
And of those, I think we actually had 3 that were selected, and then Tabata and team really asked for one additional that was inspired by one of the directions, but brought in a different genre of music.
Okay, so in my experience, and I came from the agency world before I joined the media world, from a marketing perspective, but the reason I chose, so in the session, we were able to see the animatics for the creative and choose the campaign that we thought might be the winner. And we saw, Tabata, your surprised look before we were doing that, so we knew that there was some cheat there. But I think almost every marketer in that room chose the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And to me, that proves that marketers, as well as we know our target audiences, as well as we deliver to our target audiences, we don't always know exactly what's going to resonate with them.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that goes back to Jess's earlier point that like we're human beings.
Yeah.
We have conscious and unconscious biases based on the experiences that we had, and when we evaluate creative, we do it through our lens, and it's hard to be 100% neutral, right? And I do think, and I do want to say something that I do think marketers need to trust their gut for many things, because that's something you evolve and learn over time. So we can't discard that. But when you're coming to really understanding what creative ideas working with the audience, and I always call them mild to wild ranges, and I always push my team to think mild to wild, because we've got to test the extremes. And that's what we did, and when the results came in, and it was funny that the agency had that picture. I'm like, why did you guys take my picture?
So
and then somebody said, because you were on that pose for like 5 minutes and you couldn't speak. And I was like, yeah, I was shocked that one won.
yeah.
But in the end, like the team, I remember after the call, my team had a huddle, and they're like, what are we gonna do? And I was like, well, we asked the users and the consumers what they wanted, and we saw what was going to drive purchase, and we understood what the preference was. And I'm like, well, we're going to go with the data, and we're going to go make this happen.
Which was the brave choice, right? That's sometimes the
Very
hard
brave
thing to do, right? It's a lot easier to fall back on what you think. It's harder to push into a new territory that is going to be unexpected for others.
Yeah, and I applaud both the agency and you all for moving forward in that direction. So describe the campaign for me, for our listeners.
Well, one thing we know about Craftsman is that when you use a Craftsman tool, you feel like a rock star. There is this sense of pride, this sense of accomplishment. It's different in that way. That is just a unique point of difference for the Craftsman line as a whole. And so we really wanted to tap into that feeling and thought, what would it be like if a rock band was kind of hyping your every move when you're putting something together in the house, when you're building a deck. And so with that in mind, we wrote some songs for Craftsman, and we had them recorded by a rock band. We cast a rock band, as Tabata said in her talk. We started a rock band for Craftsman.
It's fantastic.
And I will tell you, when you go through the creative process, you hear the songs hundreds of times, right? Because you're in edit, you're in the shoots, the whole process.
You want to sing it for me?
And I'm always happy to sing it for you. No, but what I was going to say is this was a song and a series of songs that we just never got tired of. We knew we had something great because it's such an earworm in the most positive way, where we have people on our team. So I'll give you a little bit of the beginning of it, so hopefully it'll register for the folks listening. But Craftsman in your hand, dun, 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 dun. And it'll go into very specific use cases. Well, we have people on our team with their kids at home who, maybe they're eating breakfast and, Craftsman in my hand, I'm going to eat some cereal. You hear it come to life in other conversations, which helps us understand, like, this is becoming part of culture, right?
Yes.
This is something that's really resonated in a great way.
And it's the power of audio.
Yeah. Hopefully you'll be able to add some of the songs to your podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would love to.
So you can show the
if you can
audiences what that
share
could be.
if you can share the song that you played for the A&A.
We'll definitely share that one, but I think we should also share the ones
soundtracks.
from our
From the
TV
campaign?
spots, from our campaign. Yeah.
So it's fantastic. I will absolutely, you know what, in the intro I'll do it, and also in the outro, and right here in the middle. That'll
And
be
you
fabulous.
won't have to use my rendition.
No, I'm
I
going to use your
love your
rendition too. Your rendition,
That
your
was
beautiful voice.
great.
That was really, but that's the power of audio. Can I flip over to a media perspective for a moment? What are your thoughts with regards to audio and even radio more specifically? Do you see a role for audio in the plans, in the future plans for this rockstar rock band campaign. Either one of you can take that.
Yeah, we definitely do see that. I mean, we read the data, we see the stats, we know how important radio is and what a role it plays in today's lives of our consumers, and it's pretty untapped, to be honest. It's like the entire marketing world moved somewhere else and people forgot about radio, and radio is amazing. It has great reach, and my point of view is that radio also has a lot of focus, because think of the moments when people are listening to the radio. They're in their car driving, so you have their full attention, or they might be at home focusing on something and they have your full attention. So we know we can tap those moments. We know where our users are. So we are going to be moving into radio. Again, we only launched this earlier this year. So we're still learning. We're still building certain parts of the campaign and figuring out what we're going. But we were just talking about the fact that we are moving now into the radio side.
And we'd love to make your rock band famous.
I know, right?
Well, and radio has changed.
We'd love that too.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Radio has changed so much too over the years, where it's a one-to-one channel in so many ways too, right? Where the data that we have and to be able to target and to reach people with specific messages is, unlike it's ever been before. And obviously with the prevalence of podcasts and the ability to do integrations that really connect to specific storylines, because at the end of the day, as marketers, we're storytellers.
Yes.
It's a really powerful medium.
Yeah, and not just storytelling, but when it comes to podcasts, and that was another note that I had jotted down when I was in the session. Consumers listen to podcasts to help them with their DIY projects. It takes them from step one all the way to the completion of a project. And have you thought about creating a podcast for the brand? Is it something that's on the horizon, or is it just about integrations and advertising?
No, I mean, we've talked about it at some points, and like I said, we're still building parts of the campaign. But the other thing that I'll tell you is we have amazing influencers and amazing DIYers out there, advanced DIYers, creators, makers, construction workers that use the tools, and many of them have their own channels where they teach you about the tools. So we also don't necessarily want to compete with them, because they're a very authentic voice of the brand. So in many cases, what we try to do is elevate some of their stories. And we try to make them the hero, because in the end they are the hero, right? And they're the ones that are doing the job and admiring their accomplishments. So we also try to leverage that.
That's fantastic. It's really a home run of a campaign. And, I'm so looking forward to, playing with it with you and bringing it into the audio space. So I don't want to keep you any longer, but before we wrap up, I have one question that I'm going to pose to you, Tabata, and then the second one to you. And it's a repeat after me kind of Mad Libs kind of question. Okay? So for you, radio matters because...
Radio matters because when people listen to it, they're focused. They are really paying attention to the content, which in this day and age is hard to keep people's attention. But I do believe in the instances when people are really focusing on listening to the radio in those moments in their day, they are giving you their full attention. So it helps us reach our consumers with the message we want.
Great. Radio works because
it's one of the most powerful communication mediums that we have. Tabata mentioned they're focused. They're also welcome and open to a message. Their headspace is, they have chosen to tune in, they've chosen to listen. And we see data that tells us when people are in a headspace where they are happy or relaxed or open, in a way to messages, they're choosing the medium, that it works better.
It's great. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today.
Helping to empower consumers is core to the Craftsman brand's mission, and a deep understanding of the consumer that was gained through the rich data that they have among their audience provided the brand the comfort to truly push the boundaries. It takes bravery to create something so big that becomes part of culture in such a short period of time. And the Stanley Black Decker Craftsman brand did just that. Click the link wherever you're listening to this podcast to watch and to listen to the brilliant Craftsman brand creative. We think that you're going to be really inspired.
If you'd like to learn more about radio and its many benefits, we invite you to visit us at rab.com, or you can email us directly at askrab@rab.com. Until next time, it's Radio on Main Street.